Hi, for those of you that don't know me, which is most likely all of you, my name is Zoe. Welcome to my channel. Before we get into this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment any questions that you have about Yale, and I will be sure to get back to you as soon as possible, as well as any other videos that you may be interested in seeing. Now, here we go. Here are a trillion things I wish I knew before I went to Yale. Item number 1. This applies for before you actually even go to school in the first place. You might be really excited when you first get in, and you're probably going to want to go online and buy pretty much everything that the Yale bookstore sells. My advice, don't do it. It is overpriced, it's not worth it. Try making things. I actually made this sweatshirt. Fun fact, I just bought a regular crew neck online and then I bought iron-on letters and it ended up being less than $15. The thing is, you're going to get a lot of free shirts when you're here. You get one when you get into Yale in the first place. You're going to get one from your residential college. You're going to get one from your big siblings program. You're going to get them from the spring fling. There's going to be a ton of free shirts. So don't go crazy buying everything, because the truth is you really don't need to. Item number 2. Download this amazing app. It's called Snack Pass. I'm going to pull it up on the screen right now. Because of it, you get student discounts at certain places. You can order ahead, they can make it, you can go and pick it up, and then also you end up getting points. I have a friend where him and I, we just send our points to each other, so then they build up, and eventually when you reach a certain amount of points, then you get free food. Personally, I'm working my way towards a free breakfast sandwich at GHEV, aka Good Nature on Broadway, because I order their breakfast sandwiches at 2 a.m. pretty much all the time. So download Snack Pass if you haven't already. Also, on the topic of food, download Yale menus or Yale dining. It'll help you figure out where you want to eat on campus as far as the different residential colleges. In line with residential college food, don't be afraid to try different residential colleges other than your own. Certain ones have better food than others. Benjamin Franklin, Ezra Stiles, Holly Murray, and Morse, they tend to have better food is what I've found, as well as Berkeley, but Berkeley is very busy. So certain colleges are going to have better food than others. It's just a matter of which ones you actually feel comfortable with, how busy they are. I found that a lot of the different residential colleges actually prepare the food differently, so maybe better at one versus the other. When you first appear on campus, you're going to be absolutely terrified, most likely, because it's a new place, you're probably not going to know anybody. It's going to be scary. My advice to you, don't be afraid to try new things, don't be afraid to meet new people, and nobody remembers anybody's names, so don't be afraid to ask. That's kind of the number one thing, is people forget other people's names and then they're so scared to ask and be like, hey, I forgot your name, what's your name again? The truth is, they probably don't remember yours, so just go ahead and ask. It's not actually that big of a deal. As much as you may want to, don't stick to just your roommates when it comes to friends. Make friends with your froco group. Make friends with other first years. We're all in this together. Yale is such an incredible, inclusive community, and it's not that hard to make friends, so don't be afraid to branch out. My next piece of advice is to get a P.O. box. P.O. boxes are incredibly helpful, especially on like the first month that you're on campus. You may think, oh, I can just send things to the receiving center, it's gonna be fine. That first month, the lines are out the door and you will be waiting for legitimately 2 hours to get your packages. I don't recommend. Unless you live in TD, it's so far away. Get a P.O. box. You can order Amazon Prime Pantry to the P.O. box because food is not cheap around Yale. You can order anything that you want on Amazon. It's worth the money. Get a P.O. box. I recommend. My next topic is on clubs. 1, don't sign up to everything when you're at the activities fair. It's not smart, it's not a good idea. Go into the fair having a general idea of what you want. You can actually look at all of the clubs online first. That's what I did. I found it incredibly helpful because the fair is very overwhelming. Don't be afraid to try new things though. Just because you did it in high school doesn't mean you have to do it in college. And third, if there's a specific thing that you know is going to be a more committed kind of club that you're interested in, keep an eye out for that. Things like debate, a cappella, anything that has an audition. I found also Yale Daily News. I'm a photographer for them. Stuff like that, it helps to get in a little bit earlier. Go to the open houses, go to Dwight and Woolsey Jam. Know what's happening early if you're really interested in those specific things, because that's going to come in handy, and it's also going to help you heal or become initiated a lot earlier if you get involved earlier. My next piece of advice is for shopping classes. Yale has something called shopping period, if you haven't heard of it, and it's the beginning of each semester. We have a period of time where you're able to just go to classes and you're not committed to them. You don't always know if you're going to get the time slot that you sign up for a certain class, and that can end up messing up your entire schedule. So make sure that you have backups when it comes to that. Make sure you do your pre-registration, shop many classes, have lots of options in case something falls through. If you don't get into a class like a first year seminar that you really want, it's usually a good idea to show up to it anyways. If somebody else drops out, then you can usually get into the class. Pay attention to class locations when you are shopping classes. Look them up on a map. You may think that you can get from Cross Campus or WLH all the way up to Science Hill in 15 minutes.
Yes, I made it! I'm on time!
But unless you have a scooter, a bike, a skateboard, or you're taking the shuttle, it's not gonna happen. Don't do it. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. You can look up Yale demand statistics when you're shopping your classes. You can put in whatever class you're interested in, and it will tell you how many other people have that class on their worksheets, how many other people are shopping it. And then in course table, you can look up how big the class size is, and you can compare that. So that's going to be really helpful when you're planning your classes and you're not sure if you're going to get into one. Course table, also really helpful. I really like it because I can add things to my worksheet and they're not going to become official, like you're not going to get any emails or anything for it, so you can add as many classes to your worksheet as you want when you're shopping. You can also see your entire like class schedule and worksheet planned out as a timetable, so you can see if things overlap and you can delete things. Course table is also really helpful because you have reviews of the teacher, the class, and the workload, so you can see if your class ends up being really hard or not, and you can also compare different teachers to figure out which one you actually want to have for a class. One thing I didn't know before I took my first semester of classes is that technically you are allowed to take more than one first year seminar, which are classes that are open only to first years that are honestly so cool. But your chances of getting into one, if you take one your first semester, your chances of getting into one your second semester are much, much lower. My next piece of advice may sound incredibly basic and intuitive, and I heard it a million times. I still didn't listen to it. Go to office hours and go to class. You need to know more than just the material that you're learning. Like, I would do the problem sets, I would take the class, I would be fine, but I didn't quite understand the extent that I needed to understand everything. Try out different study spaces. You don't have to study in purely the libraries. I actually don't think, I've studied in Sterling Library once. Why? I hate Sterling. Sterling is too quiet for me. I also don't like Bass. Bass Library has these individual study rooms that you can go in and shut the door, and then you can make like a little bit of noise in them and it's fine. Those are great, but they fill up really quickly. So if I can't get in one of them, I actually don't really like going to Bass. My favorite study spaces are actually in my residential college or outside. In the summer, I do the majority of my work actually in the LW courtyard because I really like being outside. But then when it got colder, I ended up doing a lot of work in Pearson College, which is my residential college. I really like studying in the dining hall because Pearson keeps the doors to the dining hall open all the time. And I also really like studying in our common area, sometimes in the Pearson Library, and a lot of times actually in our buttery. Not all butteries are created equal, but I love the Pearson Buttery because it has these big kind of pretty much restaurant booths with these big tables, so you can go, you can spread out, and when the buttery's not open then, and it's quiet, but you also can make noise, and it's not that big a deal when you're there. So it's definitely one of my favorite places to study. Within your first 2 weeks, you are going to have to go to your first year dinner and to like the opening welcoming ceremony thing. For that, you need to dress nice. I ended up wearing my red suede Urban Outfitters dress, so make sure that you bring some nice clothing and also some nice shoes that you can practically walk in. Bring rain boots, bring rain boots. It rains all the time. It rains in December. It rains in the summer. It always rains. It's never-ending rain, and Yale has a lot of very uneven ground because all the stones are just different heights, so then you're just walking and you step in this massive puddle and your feet get wet. Bring an umbrella, bring rain boots, bring a rain jacket. My next piece of advice is for when you are applying for roommates and housing, when you're filling out your form. The sleep schedule that you put down, it might change. For me, I said that I get up late and I go to bed early. I now go to bed at 1 a.m. every day because of my schedule. And my roommate and I, our sleep schedules don't align because of that. It's not that big a deal, but just keep that in mind. My biggest advice is time management, learning to time things correctly. At the beginning of the year, I really struggled with this, but then I figured it out at the end of the year, and it ended up being a lot easier once I actually learned how to time things right. You're most likely going to get P sets, aka problem sets, which will take anywhere from an hour to 30 plus hours depending on your class. My longest one was 25 hours long. My advice, don't wait till the last minute to do your problem sets, your P sets. Spread it out over time or do it during the weekend. Once I started doing that, my Mondays and Tuesdays ended up being way better. My class was very front stacked in the week, meaning that the majority of my assignments were due on Wednesdays, so my Mondays and Tuesdays were miserable. But once I started doing my problem sets over the weekend and actually spending the weekend to get ahead, it freed up my schedule so much. Study every single day. I highly recommend this, especially for language classes. I was in Spanish too, my first semester. We got a new vocab list every single week, and you had a quiz or a test every week. That meant roughly 80 vocab words plus a couple different grammatical things or verb tenses in 1 week to learn. It's a lot. You can't cram it in the day before, like you may have been able to do in high school. It doesn't work. What I do is as soon as I get a new vocab list, I make a Quizlet, or I find a Quizlet online that already exists, and I study it every single day. Also with things like math or science, it can come in handy to just be doing practice problems on your own. You may not be assigned the problems, but I highly recommend them because that's what you're going to be tested on usually. And if you know how to do them, it's going to be really helpful. Honestly, first semester at Yale is an absolute blast. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have fun though. You're going to learn from your mistakes. You're going to be able to create a list that's incredibly long of things that you wish you knew as well. But it's an incredible experience. You're going to have a great time. If you haven't applied yet and you're looking to apply to Yale, I wish you the best of luck. Don't freak out. Things will work out. Everything happens for a reason. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Bye! Let us pray that my footage did not delete itself. Amen.